Tech Tales 33, today, May 18th, 12:16 p.m. Reading a time slip from May 4th on a Tuesday for one of the law offices. It begins with the letter P. 5:20 p.m. to 5:29 p.m., 9-minute charge. For the person in the office, I'll use the letter M. Remote connection installed essential forms as requested via email from M number 2, another staff person with the letter M. Essential forms, I know I've mentioned it before doing an installation for them. It's a very easy installation. What you do is browse to the server, to a subfolder on the server, actually a share name on the server. But the weird thing about it is it's a subfolder under program files on the server, and it has to run from there. You have to launch it from there. It's just making a shortcut to that executable file on the user's desktop. There is no installation to perform. It's just dragging over a shortcut to the computer. And there's been some other ways that they have attempted to do it, like go to the website and install the trial version, and that gets it all messy because then you got to go uninstall it and go delete a particular file or folder somewhere. I don't remember what it was. It was in my notes. So anyway, I think they just stopped trying themselves. I tried to teach how to do it. It involves the Windows key R, 2 backslashes, the server name, hit enter, and then that'll show the shares for that server. I don't want to map a drive letter to it. That's just not. In fact, their instructions for creating the shortcut on the desktop discourages that method. So it's a simple thing to do, but it's a little technical. They're not going to remember it from one time to the next. Then the next one is the same day, Tuesday, 6:25 p.m. to 6:37 p.m. for the law office that begins with the letter W, and this is for J, who's the attorney in that office. Researched issue received by email indicating the staff email address. It's an email address that's just the word staff, at, and then their domain name is over quota. Connected remote to Jay's computer and moved old emails from IMAP inbox to local PST file. I know that I've mentioned before, I've got a couple clients that use this old, I'm calling it old, not fair word, legacy email provider called Network Solutions. Network Solutions, way back in history, was, to my knowledge back then, it was the only place to turn to get a custom domain name. That would have been in the 90s. And that's where I originally got my custom domain name. Not the LiveWindowsTraining.com, but the DougBetts.com address, which is not a good way to send an email to me, by the way. You'll get much quicker results sending email to DougBetts at LiveWindowsTraining.com. So I received an email from Jay saying that he got an email saying the staff email address was over quota. So the way I handle that is, now that email provider will used to only be POP3 accounts. And then they came into the new world and had IMAP available. And so what we do now, it's a very small quota that they allow. They charge more for additional space, and we've done that with Jay a couple of times. And then every month or two, he was needing another, gigabyte of space, because the attorney's offices, this one in particular, does really large attachments. And they don't understand how to police those attachments and get them out of their mail. So what I do is, in their Microsoft Outlook, I have a second PST file, just a local PST file, where I'll periodically drag a whole bunch of email to the inbox of that other PST file, and that frees up the space. So this staff account, it's taken a long time for it to get full. So that's what I do there. Really, the right solution is to move them to a different email host. And that's just a pain in the neck to do, but we'll probably wind up doing it. It hasn't been any big crisis. When these mailboxes get full, there is the potential that somebody's email will get rejected, and the sender of that email will get a notification of it, but sometimes those notifications don't go through, depending upon how their email service is configured. So that can be a unhappy day. This is one that I really need to get cleaned up, and I'm just dragging my feet on it, to be honest with you. He's not retired, but he's kind of really slowing down his business, and it just seems like such a simple thing to just manage those attachments, but they're not in a place really to be willing or interested to pay attention to that. And I know he won't have trouble with me spending the money to move him to a new email provider. That's the right way to go. So here's me rambling about, I guess, excuses why I haven't done it. I didn't give you any excuses though, did I? I think just about every job anybody ever does has those little tasks that are kind of nagging. I should do this, I should do this, I should do this. And you just procrastinate it. So this is one of those. Then the next one is a law office that begins with the letter P again, and this was A from their office, 9:01 a.m. to 9:21 a.m., and the charges for 5 minutes. You go, wait a minute, 9:01 to 9:21, I can do that math, that's 20 minutes, and I'm charging for 5 minutes. Well, what I do is on the time slip, I don't get to see it on this time sheet, but in the time slip, I can put a start time and an end time and a break time. Well, I put 15 minutes break time in this because it was 2 separate phone calls. So I don't make separate time slips for that. And I've kind of made the point before that I put all these little time slips in there. I'm not nickel and diming them to death. They don't add up to enough to be called that. Nickel and diming to death would be the support companies that say, oh, you got a 5-minute phone call? Well, our minimum block of time is 15 minutes, so we're going to charge you 15 minutes for that 5 minutes. That's a thing. Some support services do that. Other support services just don't bother writing it down, and they got this mindset that says that comes across as nickel and diming clients. Well, I don't subscribe to that philosophy, because if you don't put down these little ones that fix a problem, 5 minutes here fixes that, 3 minutes here fixes that, 10 minutes here fixes that, then all I get to see is the time slips that are 2 and 3 hours to do something that doesn't feel like big bang for the buck. These small time charges, they feel like big bang for the buck. In my experience with my clients, my perception is it gives them a sense of good value for the dollar, and they don't hesitate to call me. They will call me for the slightest little thing, and they know they're going to get this little charge for whatever time that it took to deal with. So I think that's working out pretty good, really. I like it a lot. I've never had one complaint about these little time charges. They get an invoice that has more pages to it for $500 than if I gave them an invoice that's got 2 paragraphs on it for $500. Somehow that 3 pages feels like more bang for the buck. If you don't put these down, if you don't tell them about all these little things that you're doing for them, they don't know. It doesn't show up to the person who's writing the checks. Even if they were involved in it, they don't remember it. They see it on paper. Oh yeah, he fixed here. Oh yeah, he did that. Oh yeah, he did that. So those are things that I like to do. So I haven't read this time slip yet. It's for A in their office. Phone support X2, meaning 2 phone calls, due to unable to log in to Windows. So this person was unable to log in to Windows. Well, this can also be a training point for their staff. If they see too many things that shouldn't have generated a phone call, this shouldn't have generated a phone call. She was not typing her password correctly. So I walked her through keystroke by keystroke. And I think what happened is she was not correctly doing the capitalization. And I've had this happen a good number of times. If you give them a reasonably complex password, which is what we're supposed to do, then they can have difficulty remembering it. So in this office, some of the older, longer-term staff that have been around longer, they have simpler login passwords for logging into Windows, but their email passwords are complex. Well, more recently, since we've moved to Microsoft 365, on all the new staff that come in and all the new computers that come in, I decided to make them consistent so that they're actually using their Microsoft 365 password when they're logging in to Windows on the computer. Yes, I know we could be doing pins, but the computers are not actually logging in with a Microsoft account. They're still logging in with a local admin user account. But for consistency's sake, I'm having them use that password. I can argue against that against myself, so you don't need to bother with giving me the arguments for doing it the other way. I've done it a few different ways in different offices. So that's where I'm going to stop on this session. I hope that was useful. Catch you later. Have a great day. Goodbye.